Hi, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for tuning into today's Author Talk series brought to you by the Library Speakers Consortium. The Library Speakers Consortium is a partnership of more than 350 library systems across the US, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, with the goal of making Author Talks more accessible to communities of all sizes. I am Brandon Adler, your host and moderator in conversation with each of the acclaimed authors that you will hear from throughout our series. Today, we are so excited to have an acclaimed podcast host, coach, speaker, and author, the Budgetnista herself, Tiffany Aliche, with us to chat as she presents some simple steps on how to get good with money and reach your financial goals. Before we dive in, though, I want to make sure that I teach everybody how to ask questions, that general housekeeping information that keeps everything running smoothly. So we did compile some questions with registration, but you can also continue to submit questions throughout this presentation by clicking that questions tab that's just below this live stream video. There are 3 tabs there. One of them says questions. That's where you submit your questions. Please keep in mind, this is more of a webinar format. So Tiffany will present for the first 40 to 45 minutes, and then we will hold a Q&A for the last 15 to 20 minutes of the hour. There are quite a few of you tuning in today, so we will take as many questions as time allows during that Q&A period. Now, to formally introduce our guest for today. Tiffany Aliche, aka the Budgetnista, co-hosts the award-winning Brown Ambition podcast, appears as a financial expert on The Real, and runs an online school, the Live Richer Academy, through which she has taught thousands of women how to create, implement, and automate their financial plans. She has been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Black Enterprise, Reader's Digest, USA Today, Ebony, Forbes, Redbook, the New York Times, Fast Company, and US News and World Report, and has been on the Today Show, Good Morning America, and CNN. A repeat speaker at Essence Fest and the Watermark Women's Conference, she has also taped a series of financial tips for CNBC that reaches 80 million unique viewers each month. Welcome, Tiffany. Thank you so much for being here. I will turn things over to you.
Thank you, Brandon. Hey, everyone. Super excited. My name is Tiffany Aliche, aka the Budgetnista. Brandon and I were just joking off camera because we were both sharing how, she has a 3-year-old. And before I started the Budgetnista 15 years ago, I actually was a preschool teacher, meaning I taught 3 and 4-year-olds. And she said, well, I think what you do, teaching financial education, taking people from a place of no knowledge to knowledge, that you being a preschool teacher before all of this is this perfect transition. And I agree, it totally is. So I actually have a presentation. If you don't, I should have said ahead of time, that like I'm a big notebook girl. I usually have one on me, but I don't think I have my notebook now because I'm not the one taking notes, but I usually like to hold it up. Well, actually, here's one of my favorite ones, my Moleskine. So if you don't have a notebook and you don't have a pen, I suggest you get one because the teacher in me is always going to be giving you things that you're going to want to take notes on. And certainly I'm going to give you a little homework at the end because my students used to call me Miss Tiffany. And I still feel like all these years later, I'm still very much Miss Tiffany. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Ooh, let me get this presentation ready. So I'm not super techie, even though I use this platform all the time. Okay, there it is. Present, share screen, here, and share. All right. Let me make it big. Okay. If you can't see, I'm pretty sure you can. Let me make sure. Yes, you can. Perfect. Okay, perfect. So this is what you're going to expect from today's class with me, if you will. I'm going to introduce myself very briefly. And today we're going to go over what I like to call financial wholeness and what that is. And there are 10 simple steps to becoming financially whole. I'm going to go over what those 10 steps are and some quick things you can do to start to work toward financial wholeness. I'm going to take some questions. And we're going to do a little homework, and I might even do a giveaway. We're going to see how well you act this class. So a little bit about me. I am a personal financial educator. I actually wrote a New York Times bestseller called Get Good with Money, which is the parent book to my new book, which is behind me, Made Whole. It's the workbook. Made Whole is the workbook, and Get Good with Money is the textbook. Um, and I have been teaching financial education officially for about 15 years, but really longer than that. I was fortunate to grow up in a household where money was talked about all the time. My father was a CFO and an accountant. He had his master's in economics and his bachelor's in finance. And my mom, a nurse, with both her bachelor's and master's in nursing. So between the two of my parents, my dad literally used to sit down and teach us money lessons every week. Like, this is how you budget, this is how you save, this is how you fix your credit. And my mom, she would teach us in a more tangible, real life way. So my dad was like academic, and my mom was hands on. So we would go food shopping with her. We would go grocery shopping, or watch her navigate. I remember when I bought my first car, she was the one who taught me how to negotiate. And so I was fortunate to learn how to navigate my money very early on at home. Um, by my mid 20s, I was financially perfect, 800 credit score. I had, like, even though I was a preschool teacher and was making about between 30 and 40,000. In about 3 years, I'd saved $30,000 because I tutored, I babysat, I had all these side hustles. I bought a condo when I was 25 as a result. And because I was just doing what I was told, it was a very, like, do what you're told type of kid for the most part. My parents might beg to differ. And then at 26, I decided to throw all the good sense out the window. And I decided not to lean into the guides that I had. And I one of someone who I considered my friend, and I thought he was wealthy, because in your 20s you think when you have fancy things that must mean you actually have wealth, but I did not realize that he was a scammer. He I asked him to teach me how to invest, and promptly he stole my money and left me $35,000 in credit card debt. And then that was the same year that I closed on my condo. So $220,000 of debt on top of that. And that also year I finished my master's in education. So another $52,000 of debt. So I was just about $300,000 in debt overnight. And my credit score started to tank. And a couple years later, as I was struggling to kind of get out of that weight of debt, the recession hit in 2009, 10, and I lost my job. My school where I taught was a nonprofit based school. They lost their funding. So now here I had all of this debt, no job, a mortgage, and no income. It was a really scary, scary time. And some of you might be feeling that now. If you are having a hard time with your finances, just put a one in the comments. I like for people to see that they're not alone. Just a one. Um, and it was a really scary time. And it wasn't until I confessed to my best friend Linda all the struggles I was going through, and I started to release some of the shame, because shame shields solutions, that I was able to start to put the knowledge that I had learned, the step by step, the fundamentals that I'd learned at home, that I started to put those to the test. And I realized I could dig my way out, that it was not fast. From age 29 to 33, it was really a struggle till I finally got back on my feet to where I was when I was a preschool teacher. So it's not something that happened overnight, but it is something that happened. I share that story with you to know that if you are having a hard financial time, you are not alone. It is not the end. It is just the beginning of where you can be. So just want to share a little bit about me. So I want to go over financial wholeness. So feel free to screenshot, tag, share. I'm the Budgetnista on all the platforms, so you can share. This is not proprietary information. This is directly from my new book, Made Whole. So financial wholeness is when all aspects, especially these 10 that we're going to go over, of your financial life are working together for your greatest good, your biggest benefit, and your richest life. Right? So there are these 10 components to financial wholeness. As a matter of fact, like, let's see if we could take a quick quiz and you can let me know what your financial wholeness score is. Are you ready? So I am going to go to my quiz site. If you ever want to just take this quiz on your own, if you go to um, Get Good with Money, Money. I'm typing in myself because I want you don't have to take the quiz because we're going to just do it out loud. Money quiz, right? Is it Get Good Money quiz? I think so. getgoodwithmoneyquiz.com. So if you ever just want to take this quiz again, so if you, no, actually it's GGWM, sorry, stands for Get Good with Money. So ggwmquiz.com. So ggwmquiz.com. That's where I'm taking this quiz, but we could just, you don't have to go there. You can focus here. We're going to do it together. Each of these is worth 10%. So if the answer is yes, give yourself a check or one, or, you can collect 10%. Okay. It's just 10 quick questions. You ready? Let's go. All right. So number one, budget building. And we're going to go over all of the ways to start to get strong in these 10 areas. Let me just take this down so you can see me. Okay. Number one, I have a written and at least partially automated, i.e. transfers, savings, bills account, that these are all automated, your bill pay, personal budget. I have the necessary checking and savings accounts to support my budget. So do you have at least a written or partially automated budget? And then you have the checking and savings accounts you need to support it. If you say yes, give yourself a check. Okay. Next. 2, save like a squirrel. I have accumulated at least 3 months of necessary bare bones expenses. I like to call this your noodle budget for emergencies. And you have it saved in an online only savings account or someplace separate than your regular spending, your regular checking. So do you have 3 months of emergency savings, and is it saved someplace separate than your spending money? Yes, give yourself a check. Number 3, dig out of debt. I am either debt free or I have a clear picture of who and what I owe and have written down the components of each debt, right? That means like how much you owe, the interest rates, the due dates, etc. Also, you have identified and you use a debt pay down plan like the snowball method, and you use your bank's online bill pay tool to at least partially automate your payments. So that means you're either debt free or you have a clear picture of who like what your debt is, like who you owe, etc. And you have a debt pay down plan in place that is at least partially automated. So if the answer is yes, give yourself a check. That was number 3. 4, score high. I have requested to receive a free copy of my FICO or whatever credit reporting system that you have within the last 12 months. You have at least a 740 FICO credit score or higher, or you've identified the factors that are impacting your score and you've come up with a game plan. So 1, you know what your score is because you've got it within the last year. It's a 740 or higher. If not, you know what's impacting your score and you're on your way to raising it. Yes, give yourself another point. 5, learn to earn, increase your income. I've identified ways to contribute value to my job and feel confident I can leverage them to ask for a raise or promotion, or I already have multiple streams of income, and or I know how to increase my income by monetizing my existing skill set and education. I have a plan of action if I desire to make more money. So you know how to make more money either at your current job or external to your current job. Do you know how to make more money? And you're pretty confident that you can do so? Yes, give yourself a check. 6, remember there's 10 of these, so we're rounding up. Invest like an insider. I have identified my retirement and wealth goals. I have created and implemented my investment plans with the help of human resources, a certified financial planner, online tools, or by myself. I am committed to consistent contributions toward investing, and I've learned to largely leave my investments alone and give them the opportunity to grow. I put in place a clear investment plan for both retirement and wealth. So, in order to get a yes here, you have to have clear goals for both retirement and wealth that you're working toward, and you are contributing to your investments consistently, and you're largely leaving them alone. If that's true, give yourself a check. All right. 7, insurance. I know that I have adequate insurance coverage because I understand and have calculated my needs around health, life, disability, and property and casualty insurance. So you are fully insured between all those ways. You have disability, if that makes sense, health insurance, life insurance, property and casualty insurance, which is basically home and auto insurance. Give yourself a check if this is true. 8, net worth. I know how to calculate my net worth, what I own minus what I owe, and I have a positive net worth, or you know how to achieve that, right? And you have a net worth goal that you have identified, and what you need to do to achieve that goal. So you either have a positive net worth, you know what your net worth is, and you're working toward a positive net worth. Give yourself a check if that's true. Last two, your money team, financial professionals. I have found, vetted, and assembled a money team of financial professionals and accountability partners that will help you reach your goals. So everybody doesn't need an accountant or certified financial planner, but I do believe that you should have someone helping you with your finances, even if it's an accountability partner. So if you have at least someone that you can go to when it comes to navigating your personal finances, give yourself a check. And last but not least, I have identified and completed the applicable components of my estate plan: a will, a trust. At the very least, your beneficiaries are up to date. This means you have a plan for what will happen to your estate. That's cash, real estate, jewelry, and other assets, your stuff, after you pass, no matter the size of your bank account and portfolio. So it doesn't matter how much you own. Do you know what's going to happen to your stuff when you're not here? Give yourself a check if that's true. Okay? All right. So I would love to know, although for some reason I can't see the comments. I would love to know, like, what are your scores? Every single check that you gave yourself, that's 10%. So if you got 4 checks, you have 40%. You got 5 checks, 50%. 6 checks, 60%. What are your scores? What is your financial wholeness score? Don't worry if it's low, high, in between, because we're going to go over some of those things. Okay, I see George says 70%. Um, okay, that was better than I am. Okay, 30%, that's okay. We're not here to judge. 30%, okay. So yes, share your your wholeness scores. And so now what I'm going to do is we are going to go over each of those 10 categories, and I'm going to give you kind of like a jump start, because obviously we can't go over every single thing to do, but I'm going to give you a jump start of what you can do in each category to start to work toward financial wholeness. So again, for clarity, financial wholeness is when these 10 components basically of your financial life you are working toward using these 10 components of your financial life to work toward your greatest good, your biggest benefit, your richest life, right? I used to teach about financial freedom, which is like you have a pile of money, you don't have to work anymore. But I didn't feel as realistic and as attainable, because you might not ever have a pile of money. And so does that mean you don't get to have a good life? No. But if you achieve financial wholeness, meaning that you've mastered these 10 things, whether the economy is up or down, whether you're a mechanic, a nurse, a CEO, a doctor, a stay-at-home mom, a teacher, you can still have a solid financial life and live life on your own terms. And that's what I want for everyone. Okay. All right. So let's go over the 10. So step 1, budget building. Okay. So this is the first one. If you've written at least and partially automated your transfer. So here is a quick start. Like I told you, for each of these, I'm going to give you a quick start. So for budget building, what you can do is wherever you work, every job does not allow you to do this, but many jobs do. Wherever you work, I want you to ask them if you can split it before you get it. And so split it before you get it is that I want you to have 4 accounts: checking, savings. If you don't have your notebook out, what are you doing? Right? This is why I said to bring your notebook, because it's going to be a lot of notes. So checking, savings. 2 checking accounts are going to stay at your regular bank. And so that's going to look like one of them is going to be a spending account, one of them is going to be a bills account. So I want you to separate your bill money from your spending money, so much so that I want you to tell your bank, I want you to unlock my bills account from my debit card. So when you swipe your debit card, I don't want you to ever mistakenly spend your bill money. You don't have to have a debit card for a checking account. They won't tell you that, but I'm telling you. You can literally say, I don't want a debit card for this checking account for bills. Okay. And then your 2 savings accounts, I want you to have it at an online only bank. And we'll talk about that later with savings. So you're going to go to HR and say, after you do a little bit of math to figure out how much money do you want to go to your checkout for spending, and how much money do you want to go to your checking account for bills, and whatever's left over, how you want to split into your 2 savings. One savings is going to be for your emergency savings, and one savings is for long-term goal savings. You might not have any extra money left over for goals, and you might not even have any money left over for emergency savings, and that's okay to start. So you might only have enough money for checking for spending and checking for bills. And that's okay. But having your payroll split that way, it means you don't have to budget with quite as much discipline. So if they can split it into those 4 piles for you, you get to split it before you get it, and you can basically budget without budgeting. That's a nice quick start. Does that make sense? Y'all good? All right. So that's like, that's a quick start for split it before step 1 budget building. 2, remember, saving like a squirrel. Say, in order to get an A+ here, I want you to work toward accumulating at least 3 months of your bare bones budget. I like to call this a noodle budget. And sometimes you got to drop down and get your noodle on, right? So remember back in the day, some of you might still be in school, but remember the ramen noodle budget? So that's like it might be peanut butter and jelly, it might be rice and beans, whatever the least expensive meal that you could afford that is reasonably nutritional, right? Regional nutritious, right? Is that's your noodle budget. So you're going to say, let's just say your life costs you $3,000 a month. That's rent. I'm just making it up. Car notes, probably more than this. All these other things. But if you got rid of everything that was not essential, maybe you could get it down to 2,500. Then that would be your noodle budget. You're not going to live at 2,500 unless you have to, like you lost your job or something's happened. Maybe you got a reduction in employment, but you should know what your noodle budget amount is. And then you're going to multiply that times 3. And that is the amount of money that you want to work toward having saved in that online only savings account that I told you about, right? Because if something were to happen, you were to lose your job, you're going to drop down to your noodle budget. So your regular budget, your $3,000 a month, you're going to get it down to 2,500 by cutting out all the excess. And you have 3 months to try to figure it out. Now, 3 months is not going to be enough for some people. My sister was, she's a mechanical engineer, a year and a half to get her first job. 3 months is not enough. She needs at least 6 months, maybe even a year. My mom, before she retired, was a nurse. 3 months is almost too much, because I remember when I was in high school, and her hospital was closing. Before the hospital closed, our phone rang like 20 times a day. Nurses were then and now in such high demand. It was like, so 3 months for a nurse is like, you might be doing too much. So the amount of emergency savings that you should have is really going to be dependent on how quickly you think that you can replace that income, right? 3 months is a nice solid number. But if you think, you know what, it would take me at least 6 to 8 months, 6 to 8 months of noodle budget saved. It would take me a month and a half to 3 months is still a solid number to have. I wouldn't feel comfortable with less than 3 months. Okay. And I want you to have that money in an online only savings account. Here's why: because that bank that you see outside on the corner, the reason why they're on that corner, they pay a premium for that visibility. And because they pay that premium, they pass that on to you by saying, we're not going to give you interest. We're going to give you 0.000000001% interest. Online only banks don't have quite as much overhead, so they're able to pass some of that interest on to you. Like right now, I think some of these online only banks are charging or giving like over 4% interest versus the bank on the corner, which is giving you less than 1%. So you're going to look for online only bank that, if you're in the United States, that's FDIC insured. So is FDIC is what does FDIC stand for again? Federal. Look, don't give me the lying. Don't give me FDIC. Don't give me a lying. FDIC stands for Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, right? That's FDIC insured. So you're going to want to make sure that you're it's FDIC insured. So up to, I think, $250,000 per bank account per bank. It will be insured. If that bank were to close down, the government would give you your money back. And you're going to look for the highest interest rate. Okay. The reason why I like to have it separate from your checking account is because if you're like me and you have a Target problem, when you go to Target or wherever your favorite place to shop or wherever it is, your checking account might say, Tiffany, you are done for the week. There's no more money left in this check. Because remember, your debit card is not attached to your bills account. It's only attached to your spending account for groceries, grooming, going out. And maybe I've already tapped out all my spending for that week. And then, but I know my savings has money. And old school Tiffany used to have my savings, my checking at the same bank. And it made the transfer from savings to checking really easy within seconds, standing in line at Target. But new Tiffany is like, oh my gosh, my savings is at this online only bank, but I am currently here at Target with my checking account card at this bank. Unless I have a sleeping bag, I'm going to have to wait 24 hours for my savings to get to my checking. And so that pause makes me say, never mind. I'm not going to get whatever that thing is. I don't need that target anyway. So so the jump start for saving like a squirrel is to save your money in an online only bank, because we want to be like squirrels. Here's the thing. Human beings sometimes don't fully understand that life is cyclical, but squirrels do, right? So where I live in New Jersey right now, it's fall. There are acorns literally everywhere. It is abundant season for squirrels. There are so many acorns. I mean, you can't walk 1 second without stepping on an acorn. And so if squirrels were humans, right now they would be chilling. They would be eating and they would believe it's always going to be acorn season. It's always going to be like this. But squirrels are not human. They're like, I know that financial winter comes every single year, and that in a few months, there will be no acorns on the ground. The ground will be covered with snow. And so the acorns that I'm collecting now are not just for the fall, it's also for my financial winter and the time the next and up until spring when the acorns come back. So I want you to be a super savvy saver like a squirrel, to understand that if you are currently in abundant times, that's great, but the money that you are making in abundant times is not just for that time. You are meant to enjoy some and squirrel away some, so that way when financial winter comes, because it will, that is just the nature of the economic cycle, it cycles, that you will be able to live off the acorns from the abundant times. Does that make sense? We good? Let's go. Next. All right. Step 3, dig out of debt. So here, what I want you to do here, take your screenshot, right, I want you to get clear that I want you to first get clear about who you owe. So in Made Whole, I give you like this worksheet that says like, who do you owe? How much do you owe? What the interest rate is. You need to write down everything when it comes to your debt, and then choose between the 3 methods of paying off debt: snowball method, avalanche method, or blizzard. So all of the methods ask you to list everything you list everyone you owe and what those monthly payments are. And depending on what method you're going to choose is who you're going to pay off first. If you choose the snowball method, you're going to pay off the debt with the lowest balances first, in that order: lowest, second lowest, third lowest, fourth lowest. That's the snowball method. Avalanche method, you're going to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. Snowball method means that you get early success, because it's like if you pay off the smallest debt first, you start to feel good right away. It's like instead of running a mile your first day of exercising, you walk the block. Avalanche says, no pain, no gain. I'm going to pay off the debt that is causing me the most financial hardship, which is the debt with the highest interest rate. So that's what you're going to pay off first with the avalanche method. If you're someone who is like, I want to pay off the debt that's costing me the most amount of money first, highest interest, second highest interest, third highest interest, you pay it off in that order. Blizzard method is, I'm going to pay off the debt that's causing me the most stress. So if you owe grandma and you're like, oh gosh, I haven't visited her in 2 months because I owe granny, and I also owe my sister, then you're going to pay off the debt highest stress, second highest stress, third highest stress. There is no judgment. You get to decide, but are you going to pay off the debt based upon the amount, the debt based upon the interest rate, the debt based upon the stress? Decide that, and then you put your method and automate that method so you can start to slowly pay down the debt. It took me 2.5, almost 3 years to pay off that $35,000 in credit card debt that the scam left me in. And it was so worth it, because now that it's gone, I could breathe a sigh of relief. So debt takes time, but it's really about getting down on paper, picking a method, and semi-automating that method. That make sense? Got it? Good. Credit. So credit. So when it comes to credit, I want you, to get your free credit report. So there's websites like, I think it's like freeannualcreditreport.com, I believe. If you just Google, where do I find my free credit report? But I believe it's annualcreditreport.com, I believe, gives like free credit report. So 740 or better is the beginning of perfect credit, right? So what does that mean? That means if someone has an 850 and you have a 740, 750, 760 in that range, right? Well, you're going to get basically the same interest rates offered. So I don't stress myself at trying to getting a credit score above like 800. As long as my credit score is in that 750, 760, 740 range, you good. Okay. So when it comes to credit, something that you could do right away is there are 5 components to your credit score. One of them is payment history. Like, do you pay those people when you're supposed to pay them at least the minimum? That's 35% of your score. 30% of your score is amounts owed. So in order to positively affect 35% of your score, if you could automate your payments. So, your credit card, student loans, whatever, if you can automate those payments so they're not late, you can positively affect 35% of your score. Okay? So automating your payments will affect 35% of your score. Now, amounts owed, aside from paying down the debt, if you have now, this only works if you're going to be responsible and not use your credit card. But they like to see an average of how much could you owe versus how much you owe. So let's just say you have one credit card and it has $100 limit, but you're using $100 on that $100 limit. You are maxed out. That is tanking your score. If you open up another credit card with $100 limit and don't use it, now you are using 50% of the credit allotted to you, and it will slightly bring up your score. So one of the ways to offset amounts owed is so you can open up another card, which I don't necessarily suggest that if you don't have the willpower, because I don't want you to run up this card, or with the card that you do have, as you start to pay it down, see if you can increase the limit only if you're not going to continue to max it out. If you know you're going to max it out, leave it alone. Just pay that thing down. Okay? So with credit, you want to increase limits, but decrease how much you're using. And you want to pay automatically on time. And that will affect 65% of your credit. And you'll be able to raise your credit quicker than you think. Got it? Good. We're cooking with grease now. Step 5, learning to earn. So you cannot budget and save your way to wealth. Not to say that wealth is the goal for everyone, but everyone has to know how to earn. So whether that is at your current job, whether that's a new job, whether that's a side hustle, whether that's a business, right? So here is a quick start to figuring out how to earn at your current job. If you have not done this already, create what my sister Tracy calls a Go Me file. So, what's a Go Me file? A Go Me file is every time you do something good at that job, I want you to write it down, an email to yourself, a file on your computer, a notebook, and I want you to say, Go Me, I just figured out that we can switch whatever system that we can if we pay for this thing annually, this will save us money. Or I took the shift from Tanya because she's on maternity leave, whatever that is. Write it down in your GoMe file, and to the best of your ability, try to quantify the value that it brought. Did it save the company money? Did it make the company money? What was it? When did it happen? And can I quantify? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but to your best of your ability. So when you meet with your supervisor to ask for a raise, you can say, over the last 6 months, here's some of the ways that I brought value to the company. And I quantified how some of those ways have made and saved the company money. Because now you're not really asking for a raise, you're asking for a correction to pay, right? Because look at the value that I bring. Now, sometimes you might have a company that really just doesn't have it. Like, I'm a small business. And recently, some of my employees asked for raises, and it was a tough year. And the good thing is we're really transparent with in my company with how much we make, so they can see clearly. And so I said, okay, I'm not able to get a raise, but I can increase our profit share, which means after all the money that we've made every month, and after we make all the money that we've made and we pay all the bills, including payroll and bills and taxes and everything else, and also put money into our emergency savings for the company, there's money left over. And some of that money left over, I can pull as an owner for owner's draw. That's what they call it. And I told them I used to set aside like 5 or 6% for them. I increased it to 20%. So effectively, so I still get a salary, but I would take most of the owner's draw home. I increased how much of the owner's draw I now share with my employees. So because of their GoMe file, because I was like, okay, the company can't sustain raises, but when we have good months, there is extra money. I can share more of that. But that was as a result of the GoMe. I might not have realized that. People don't necessarily know. They might know the value that you bring, but not the number value. So that's one. Two, if you are going to do a side hustle, like for this one, think to yourself, it should be something, unless it's a business you actually want to start. If this is just for extra money, it should be something that's related to what you already do, or have done, so you don't have to learn a new skill set, or something that you have a degree or certificate in, so you could charge premium money. Example, when I was teaching preschool, I used to tutor and babysit, because who didn't want a preschool teacher who had all the background checks and everything else, tutoring and babysitting? Everybody did. So instead of getting paid at the time $25 an hour, I could charge $50 an hour. So side hustle jobs, something that you are currently doing or have done, no new skill sets. Two, you have a degree or certificate or something in it, so you could charge premium. Got it? Let's go. Investing like an insider. So when it comes to investing, I want you to understand there's two types of investing: investing for wealth, investing for retirement. Retirement comes first. It is the foundation. So when one day you don't work anymore, you don't have to worry about, what are you going to do for your basic needs, right? Investing for wealth. So investing for retirement means you get to maintain your current life. So look around, look around. This is how you're going to live in retirement, right? For wealth, it is to increase your current lifestyle and then to leave a legacy. Okay. So when it comes to both of these things, it is going to be important that you automate and you leave it alone. Automate and leave it alone. If you don't know anything else, so we're just going to talk about investing for retirement because, just for the sake of time. So if you don't know how to do any sort of investing and you work for a company, and they have a 401k or 403b, some sort of retirement account, ask if they have something called a target, write this down, target date fund, TDF, target date fund. A target date fund says, based upon whatever year that you said you want to retire, we are going to put your money into investments that match the year that you want to retire, because you're supposed to rebalance. The closer you are to retirement, the more conservative your investment should be. So like more bonds, less stocks, because stocks go up and down, up and down, up and down. But with stocks, the bigger risk, the bigger reward. So if you're 25, you're going to be largely in stocks. You have plenty of time. If you're 60, you're going to be largely in safer investments because you're about to retire. And the target date fund will rebalance that for you, because you're going to choose a target date fund of the year the closest year that you're going to retire. Because usually they have target date funds with, like, every 5 to 10 years, it'll say like target date fund 2030, to that target date fund 2035. So you're going to pick that year, and that's where you'll put your money. So if you don't know anything else, if you do that, you are way ahead of the crowd. Got it? Good. Okay. 7, get good with insurance. So it is so important to be properly insured. Lord knows I was not a few years ago. So what does that mean? I want you to, there is a great site. The homework here would be, the great site is called Policy Genius. It's free. And the way Policy Genius works is that you kind of like put in all your kind of stuff, and it'll tell you, like, this is the kind of insurance you need. If you have a pet, I highly encourage you to get some pet insurance. A friend of mine had a cat, got really sick, $6,000 worth of bills, because that was her baby. And the cat ended up passing away, and she was really struggling to pay that bill. Pet insurance is relatively inexpensive compared to what the hospital bill would be, especially if an elder cat, right? Or elder pet, right? So pet insurance, car insurance, disability insurance. If something were to happen to you, maybe your job might have disability, but it might not. You want to check on that. Health insurance, life insurance. If you have debt, if you have children, if you have property, then you're going to want to consider life insurance. And so I like that. Policy Genius it will help you just figure out, do you have enough insurance? And then whatever insurance company you're currently using, you can ask them about additional insurance. So like most places, homeowners insurance is mandatory if you have a mortgage, but renters insurance is critical and it's not mandatory. Renters insurance like sometimes be $9-10 a month, where if something were to happen to the building or the house that you live in and that place burns down, you're likely not covered. But for $9 to $10 a month, you could be covered. So you want to make sure that you are fully insured, especially as a grown up. Okay, got it? Good. Just a couple more. Increase your net worth. So the beautiful thing about your net worth is that if you do all the things I talked about previously, this is going to affect your net worth, because your net worth is what you own minus what you owe. What you own is an asset. What you owe, liability. Assets put money into your pocket, liabilities take money out. And so the way you increase your net worth is to increase the things that you own, right? And so that's cash. You might have a business, you might have property, um, you might collect art, maybe you have like books or some things that you've written or whatever. So that is increasing what you own and reducing what you owe. When you reduce your debt, you will increase your net worth. So you can literally own nothing else new, right? So you own $100 worth of stuff, but you owe $500. So right now your net worth is negative 400. So as much as you pay down that 500, your net worth will increase without you actually adding anything new to the table. And so that's what it is really here. It's just to do all the steps that I shared with you before, increasing what you own via earning more and being a better steward over the things that you have, and decreasing what you owe by working on that debt. Okay. And trying not to get into new debt. Okay. All right. 2 more. You ready? You still here with me? Good. Okay. Pick your money team, financial professionals. And so there are a number of financial professionals you might consider, like a certified financial planner. That a certified financial planner is the gold standard, if you will, of financial planners. So a financial advisor. So there are a bunch of different types of financial advisors, but the best one is a certified financial planner, also called a CFP, right? You might need an insurance broker, estate planning attorney, certified public accountant. One thing I go over in Made Whole, my new book, is how to vet, do you need it, what you're likely to pay, how they get paid. But if you don't have anybody else, I want you to get an accountability partner. Money is a team sport. I'm going to say it again. Money is a team sport. You're not meant to go it alone, whether it's your actual partner, your children, your work bestie, your work hubby, whoever. Like, you want to have someone that you can lean into to share your financial ups, downs, and challenges, right? The lone wolf perishes in the winter. Now more than ever, like, you want to start to lean into like the people around you. Honestly, like, the way the economy is shifting and changing, like, if to navigate it alone is to lose no matter how much you make. If I was not able to move back to my parents' house when I lost my job when I was 20, my late 20s, I don't know what I would have done. If not my parents, then maybe my bestie. If not my bestie, then maybe my sister. One of the things I do in Made Whole, I have a group of literally hundreds of thousands of people, because not everyone has connection to community. And so I, over the last 15 years, have created a community called Dream Catchers, where there are over 2 million of us worldwide. And some of us are in a Facebook group with like 500,000 or 600,000. I have a couple of other safe space groups that I invite you to through the book Made Whole, to have access. So if you don't have community, you're not out here by yourself, but it's incredibly important to have someone. Okay, last one, then we're going to take some questions. Okay. Step 10, leave a legacy, estate planning. And so what does that mean? Estate planning is really beneficiaries, a will, a trust. What do you want to happen to your stuff when you're not here? This is critical. Even if you're young, it's hard to think about what it could be like with you not being here, right? Nobody thinks about that. So it's weird, actually. Like, almost 2 years to the day, my beloved husband passed away suddenly from a brain aneurysm. He was only 41. Like, so young. Literally, oh wow. Today, I was thinking about that this morning. He called me 2 years today, November 9th, and he said, "Babe, I have a terrible, terrible headache. I'm headed to the hospital." And I said, "Okay, I'll meet you there." And I saw him at the hospital, and that was the last time that I saw him conscious. And so you don't know. And we did a lot of estate planning, but didn't quite finish everything because we were still young. We didn't finish our will, and we didn't finish our trust, but thankfully we were really clear about what his wishes were, what my wishes were, not from a place of thinking we're going to pass away, but because we had a certified financial planner. So we've been working on our finances together. And I want to tell you that, like, the little bit that we didn't do certainly was a big headache when it came, because people navigate differently when people pass away. And thankfully, the work that we did do made sure that I have a stepdaughter who's still here with me. She's like staying with me this week, and college is paid for. A house for her is paid for. Now, my husband never made over $60,000 a year. And so it's not even like you have to make a ton of money, but he had life insurance, thank God. So as a result, it's able to, the life insurance is is able to pay for what life looks like for her. She's 17, going on 25. Um, and so I say all that to say that updating, if you don't do anything else when it comes to update your beneficiaries, because that's what really helped. I get to just miss him. I don't have the financial, some people lose their person and they lose their home. I That's not my fate as a result of the work we did when he was still here. And so, making sure your financial plan is up to date and is so critical because you just don't know. I woke up 2 years ago, day like today, thinking everything was normal and everything changed. So, all right. This last final thing. So if you are wanting, so I'm going to give you a little bit of homework, but in one, go ahead on over to Made Whole Workbook and madewholeworkbook.com and you can pre-order. So these 10 steps to financial wholeness, I pulled directly from Made Whole. It is a workbook that walks you through step by step doing these 10 steps. If you do these 10 things, no matter the economy, no matter your job, no matter where you live, that you will, I'm not going to pretend like everything's going to be perfect, but it will take a lot to rock you out of your socks when it comes to your finances in your life, as it relates to your personal finances. This is the bedrock of your financial foundation. And that's what I want for all of us. I want you to be solid and safe and secure in your financial foundation. If you do these 10 steps that I just shared, and of course in the book, I break down even further for you how to do them, then you will be solid in your financial foundation. And yeah, so hopefully this was helpful. But yeah, Made Whole Workbook. I know they're going to share the link. But yeah, if this was helpful, let me know and we'll take some questions now.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tiffany. There was so much amazing information, and I took a lot of notes myself, and I'm sure that everybody else did as well. Let's start with a question from Dawn. Dawn says, how do you make following your budget a habit? Is it best to tie it to a specific goal? I make the budget, have it on paper and digital. Great the first month, but I can't seem to develop a rhythm in keeping it.
Dawn, that is a great question. The best way is to just automate it. Like you don't really want to get in the middle of you and your budget. Like automation is the new discipline. And so meaning that, Don, if you go to your job and have your money split it before you get it, checking, saving. So you're checking for spending, checking for bills, savings for emergencies, savings for goals, and your money comes in and splits itself. You don't have to worry about splitting it. And then your money goes into your bills account and pays your bills automatically. You don't have to worry about paying bills. Goes into your savings automatically. You don't have to worry about your savings. The only thing, Don, that you have to worry about is the money that's left on your debit card that you can spend for groceries, grooming, whatever. And so if you do that, your budget is literally working itself without your interference. So automation is key because you're right. You might get tired next month or whatever, but you don't have to worry about that if you automate. So automation is key.
What about for people who sometimes have an unexpected event or maybe have high bills that are going out and they don't make enough to cover them each month? So then
I call that broke. And I have been there, lived it, done it, and literally wrote a book about it. So I'm here to say, and it's going to sound crazy coming from a financial educator, but sometimes there's people who are not going to get paid. Not right now. And it was the hardest thing for me to accept where it was like, Tiffany. So there is like regular budget when it's like living your life like it's golden. There's a noodle budget where it's like, I just do my bare bones. I do my own nails, my own hair, my own everything. And then there is the health and safety budget. And the health and safety budget is when I only pay for things that one fit within the budget that I must have for my own health and safety. Like I have asthma, I have to have my pump. I have to have a place to live. Honestly, when I was on my health and safety budget, when I was broke, I didn't have enough money to pay my bills. I had to call credit card company. I don't have it. I had to call, my Verizon. I don't have it. So you don't just not pay, call, let them know it's not coming and ask if there's a program. COVID actually had a lot of these places create programs because of COVID. Before it wasn't as easy, but now there's programs in place. And so, and know that your credit score will for sure take a hit. But if it's the credit score or you, I choose you. Mm-hmm. And credit is one of the easiest things to raise back up again. Don't worry about your credit score. Pay for the things you must have to maintain your health and safety. So health and safety budget, if you could do a little bit more, noodle budget. If you can do a little bit more, regular everyday budget. So sometimes everyone's not going to get paid, at least not right now, and you can get to them when you have it.
Good. Thank you. Great advice. Danielle says, I have a 15 and 14-year-old, and I'm wondering best ways to teach my children how to be good with money. They do have to do chores to earn money. If they want items for fun or going out with friends, they spend their own money. I try to explain how to budget, etc., but I feel like I'm missing things.
Well, one, I'll say this is that it's hard for, because I have my stepdaughter 17, and it's hard for kids to conceptualize, like, what does that mean? She actually just got her first little job at this place called Chuck E. Cheese, which is like, I don't know, one of these, like, I used to go as a kid, these places where they get dressed up in costumes and eat pizza and play foosball. So I'm happy about that because maybe she'll get out of my pocket. But so very early on, I taught Alyssa, that's her name, that like that she had to have her buckets. That when she used to get birthday money or whatever she had chores to and got paid for them, that she had a spending. Like I got her a piggy bank, but this could be just like coffee jars or whatever, a spending jar, a savings jar, a giving jar, right? And so having your teen, it doesn't have to be jars because they're teenagers, but certainly bank accounts that every time they get money, that some of it can go towards spending. It can go on their debit card. Some of it must go on their savings account. And then some of it, ideally, I like to think, because I believe that to whom much is given, much is required, to set aside something for giving. And I let Alyssa decide. Like, she really loved animals, so sometimes we would give to a shelter, or sometimes we would see somebody who was unhoused and she would want to buy them breakfast. So because I wanted just to teach her that if she could do that at 6, then at 16, then at 26, and at 46. So you have to also remember that when you have children, they don't care about your bills. I'm grown and I don't care about my parents' bills, right? You have to attach what your kid cares about to her thing. So for Alyssa now, she's a cheerleader. She wants a car. She wants to do that. So when those things come up, I use it as a moment to say, well, let's see what's in your checking account. Well, where's your money? Didn't you just get paid? Well, I bought like Panera and I bought Uber Eats. And I'm like, well, if you're wanting this, how much money do you get paid every 2 weeks from Chuck E. Cheese? Well, these sneakers that you want are going to cost $100. You're going to have to set aside at least this much every pay period. And in 3 weeks, you'll have it. So you can't tie it to your bills. You have to tie it to their desires, if that makes sense, and use those as teachable lessons. And so like that's the advice I give.
Wonderful advice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Marcy says, is it better to pay off a huge debt such as a mortgage first or to save money?
Well, Marcy, I don't think that you should be in a super rush to pay off your mortgage, because that's a long time coming, right? So because you also want to live in the interim, like life is so short, we just don't know what's going to happen. So I believe that when it comes to debt, that you should make debt a goal, but not the goal. Does that make sense? So if this is the goal, which is financial wholeness and maybe wealth for some people, you can pick up debt on the way, debt freedom on the way. But if you stop at debt freedom, like I have a nephew, he doesn't have a mortgage, a car note, student loans. He is debt free, but he's also broke because Roman is 8 years old. Like, debt freedom does not mean that you have any wealth. Like, so, sometimes we're so focused on debt freedom. It's like, yeah, but if you have kids, you're living with broke best friends every day. They're debt free. What does that have? That's done nothing for them. And so I want you to pay your mortgage, automate it. If you want to pay your mortgage off a little faster, pay it every 2 weeks, like split it in half and pay it every 2 weeks. And you will end up paying an extra payment a year. Just make sure that payment goes to the full principal. Do that if you want to. Save and enjoy some money. Like, you're still here. So, I wouldn't make that like my first priority. I'd make it a priority, but not the priority.
Okay. Oluwatobi says, how do I determine investing goals? For example, investing for retirement versus for a new home. Should I have 2 different accounts for each goal? How do I determine the best course of action if still in the midst of starting my career?
Well, Oluwatobi, I love your name. I'm suspecting you might not be, but I'm assuming you're Nigerian. I'm Nigerian as well. And Oluwa is a very common Yoruba name. So Bawani, I'm Igbo, but my best friend used to be Yoruba, so she would teach me Yoruba words. So if you are Yoruba, hello. So yes, investing for retirement is totally different than investing for wealth. So I call it investing for wealth, but you can call it investing for goals. Those are 2 separate investment buckets. Investing for retirement comes first. Here's why. Because, Olu, it is your younger self's job to look after your older self. One day when you're 70, 80, God willing, and you're sitting on your rocking chair, you're going to wish your 20, 30, 40-year-old self did what they needed to do to make sure that at 70, 80, you don't have to. So that's why investing for retirement comes first, because one day you won't be able to do anything about it. Investing for goals comes second after you have your retirement account, a Roth IRA or an IRA or 401k or 403b, whatever retirement account, whatever tax advantage retirement account. After you're investing, you don't have to fully max it out, but you have something going consistently. Then you can turn your eyes toward what else in addition to investing for goals and for wealth. And that would, yes, be a separate account, because when you're investing for retirement, the government typically gives you tax breaks, whether it's you get tax breaks now or tax breaks later when you pull the money out. So it has to be a separate account when you're investing for wealth, because there are no tax breaks when you're investing for wealth. Well, yes, simply speaking, yeah, there are, but for the sake of this conversation. So yes, two separate accounts, two separate goals, focus on retirement first and then investing for goals.
Okay. Lily says, what are the most important financial moves to make when you become a new parent, other than probably getting your estate in order, right?
Absolutely. So first things first is that estate. Like if I got picked up made whole, I would jump to the estate planning chapter,
Okay.
because you want to make sure that you definitely want to will. If you might not need a trust. Trust usually if you have a net worth of about $500,000 or more. But quite honestly, if you have a house, that's typically $500,000, depending where you live, But you want to set aside something that if something were to happen to you, who would look after your child? One. So a will is not just like, here's money. It's like, who's going to look after my child? What funds are going to look after them? Do I have debt? Like, what does that kind of look like? So when my husband passed away, I didn't know this because I never had anyone that close to me pass away, but so he left money for Alyssa. And I know for a fact that he probably would have loved to leave it where she got some at 18, some at 25, some at 30, because kids. But the life insurance that he left her, which is a good amount, all of it lands when she's 18. So we're all like sweating bullets because I'm trying to teach her now, like, this is what you need to do, but ultimately she could do whatever she wants, And so had we known, I didn't fully understand, then what it could have been is that you leave a life insurance policy to a trust, and the trust says, when Alyssa turns 21, she gets this amount. Unless she goes to college, then this happens. If she doesn't go to college, 21, she can get 1/3, 25, she can get 1/3, and 30, she can get 1/3. Do you see what I mean? Right. So that's what I would do, is like set up a will, maybe a trust, but also start setting aside money now for their future. We don't know the future of college, but let's assume that college is still going to be a thing. You can start setting aside something. So all of my nieces and nephews, I have something called a custodial account, which is basically an investment account for them because they're minors. And so I put money in every single year. So the oldest is 8 and the youngest is 4. By the time they go to college, Auntie Tiffany will be able to contribute to that fund through a custodial account. So consider a custodial account where you can start setting aside money for them, and then getting life insurance, getting a will, and potentially a trust for your baby. And congratulations.
Okay. Wonderful advice, taking all of that. So I think you kind of answered this question for Dorothy, but maybe some elaboration. This will be our last question. Dorothy says, does this 10-part strategy vary if we're so close to retirement we could throw a rock and hit it? And you did say you could skip ahead to the estate planning section. So does that
Absolutely.
you can skip
It
around?
is, because remember, Dorothy, the 10 parts are budgeting. It doesn't matter, right? My dad is in his 80s and he still has to have a budget, right? And he does. Savings plan. So I will say savings might look a little different because he's not necessarily savings. He's in the spending component, right? Debt. And so my parents' house is paid off, but they still use their credit cards from time to time. So still managing that. Credit. My dad still fusses about his credit score. And I'm like, Daddy, you are 82 years old. What are you purchasing? So you don't necessarily need, but you never know. My mom is just 70. He got himself a young woman. And so she might want to get a new car or something like that, but still credit plays an issue. Learning to earn, And so my parents don't necessarily think about earning because they're retired now. So that part you might not necessarily need, but investing. So the investing, although they're not contributing to the investing, certainly they're managing the investments as they're pulling money out. Insurance for sure. Like after my husband passed away, my parents, they looked at their insurance policies to make sure everything was up to date. So you want to make sure, like, if something were to happen, that that your insurance is up to date. Your financial team. So making sure, like, especially as you get a little bit older, like, have you sat down with a financial planner to navigate because I'm so close to retirement, what is that going to look like? That's going to be critical for you, the financial planner. Net worth, maybe not as critical, but certainly you want to have a comfortable retirement. So that's important. And last but not least, estate planning. Like, a few years ago, my father's will still had me listed Tiffany age 10. Like, I know I have good skin, but I'm not 10. And so that was really important that we had to, like, 2 years ago, we updated all of those things, got it certified, went to the bank, put it in his safe deposit box. We all have a copy of what that will looks like. So the second half of financial wholeness is, Dorothy, is where you're going to do a lot of leaning in. That's what's so amazing about the 10 steps to financial wholeness, is that different areas, different times of your life, you're going to lean into other parts more than others, and that's okay. But it makes sense. All 10 are going to play a role at some point, whether you're 15, 25, 35, 105, And so, like, mastering those 10 things means that you can weather any financial storm. And that's what I want for everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Thank you so much for being here and all of the expert advice that you just put down on us today. It's so amazing. I also want to extend a huge thank you to all of our audience members for joining us today. Without your support, none of this would be possible. So we thank you for choosing to spend your time with us. And remember, below the live stream video, those three tabs. One of them says resources, and you can find a pre-order link to Tiffany's new workbook, Made Whole. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you all on November 16th when we speak to former U.S. Poet Laureate Joy Harjo, and again on November 30th when we talk with New York Times bestselling sci-fi author Naomi Alderman. You can register for all of these